Welcome everyone. In this series of videos we're going to be going through the 3D modeling of a small storage shed and continue on from the modeling to do all of the annotation that would be required to get a permit to be able to go ahead and build this shed. So with that, let's slowly get started. I'm looking at a blank Revit screen, and in this first video we're going to focus a little bit on file setup. So in this file setup, we're going to look at how to make this this project move smoothly for us. So obviously to start with, we're going to have to open up a file. So File, New, want a new project, and I'm going to make sure, of course, I choose an architectural template. Click OK, and I'm going to deal with units and some precision for just a minute. I'm going to head over to the Manage tab and look at project units. And when I'm modeling, I am always looking to model to the highest level of accuracy. So I'm going to choose a 2/56 of an inch. I'm certainly never going to want any of that kind of accuracy, or I should say precision, to show up on annotated drawing sheets, but we'll cover that. So that takes care of precision. I wonder where my origin is. Revit does a great job of showing that to me on my site view. And I'm going to draw this, have my origin of be these project base point. So that takes care of origin. And I also want to think about scale. So I'm going to make sure that all of my existing views have fine resolution and a scale that I think is appropriate to start with before I do anything else. A little bit like taking care of precision of views. So up here on the Manage tab, Additional Settings, I can navigate down to Detail Level. And every time I create a new view, if it's of a certain scale, like 1 inch equals a foot, a new view at that scale will come up in a medium resolution. I'm going to choose and have everything that's from 1 inch equals 10 feet and push it all over to fine resolution. So simply by clicking this double arrow, I am adjusting and pushing. So I've got 1 inch equals 10 feet into the medium, and now I will take everything in the medium bucket and push it over into the fine bucket. Simply click OK. And I have these views, and I'm going to click on level 1 and shift click down to west elevation. So all of my views, and I'm going to ask all of those views to have existing views have a fine resolution. And I'm also going to ask all of those views, I got to be careful. Fine resolution, they're all still selected. I'm now going to select a scale of 1/4 inch equals a foot. Common and residential. I think by the time we go put our views on a drawing sheet, we may choose a different scale because our shed is so small. In fact, in these videos, I'm just going to go ahead and say, let's use 1/2 inch equals a foot. Click Apply. And now, if I just as a random shot, right, I'm going to hit Escape a couple times, and I'm going to go look at like my north elevation and find that I I didn't adjust that scale, and the resolution didn't adjust either. So let's take a look at that off camera. Yeah, so I think I'm okay. I need to redo this. Somehow I missed something. I'm going to select level 1 down to west elevation. Notice the scale's blank. I'll choose my 1/2 inch equals a foot for all, and the detail level of fine. Click Apply, and maybe that's what I missed. And again, let's try this. Let's just head to a west elevation. And notice I have 1/2 inch equals a foot with a detail level of fine. So I'm going to close out some tabs up here to stay organized. And at this point, I know my origin is, I know that I'm happy with the precision of my units, and I have views set up so that they will work when creating new, and all of my existing views have both a scale that's reasonable as well as a view resolution set to fine. Okay, so at this point I'm ready to move on and set up levels and grids. And so to prepare myself for that, I'm going to head to the Architecture tab and I'm going to draw a quick couple walls. I simply choose the wall command. I really don't care about the heights. Level 1 is fine. 20 feet is fine. I don't care about really where they are. I'm just looking to draw something that's about as big as my building. So I'm going to start at the origin, head left 20 feet, head to the top of the page by, say, 12 feet. Actually, I've got some stuff on the back of that, so let's say how about another 20 feet going back. So 20 feet going back as well. All right. I would like to adjust the scope of my levels so that they're more appropriate to the small size of my project. And I can do in Revit 2021, I can now do that here in this 3D view. It does appear to be a little more productive to do it in the elevations. So I'm going to go to south elevation. And of course, now at least I can see the wall. I definitely want to be adjusting my grids by making sure that I am adjusting the 3D grid because I want this to be set up and standard in every future view that I create. So this is the time to do my 3D adjustments, and I will only be doing 2D adjustments later. So that looks sort of reasonable for a south elevation. I'm going to close this and head to a west elevation. And of course, notice here they're also way too large. And bring this over. Make sure I get that 3D. And bring it back somewhere in the ballpark. So that seems reasonable. May not be perfect. Head back to 3D, and of course we can see the scope of the levels have changed significantly. I don't need these walls anymore. I'm going to navigate back to my site plan, and time to draw some grids. So I've got a grid command under the Architecture tab, set up and grid. And I'll come up. Yeah, I kind of lost the reference without those walls. So I'm going to Control Z to bring those walls back. And while that wall is here, I'll use my grid, and I get a chance to understand, hey, that grid should go a little bit past where my building needs to be. Drag the bottom end of that grid a little further. And instead of creating a second grid over here, I'm going to select my first one and use copy and just go to the left 20 feet. Draw in one more grid that's going to start at the origin and move left past the building. And drag the right-hand side a little bit. Copy it up, and I want my grid up here to be 12 feet. And so we can see that we have our grids 1, 2, 3, and 4, and let's change these up here to how about, well, that's going to be difficult. Well, I guess we'll, brother here. Yep, it's a little Revit shortcoming, but here's our grid 5. Now that there's no grid 2, I can rename this one to 2. Now that there's no grid 1, I can rename this to grid 1. And I will come down here and name this to grid A. and rename the next number 4 to B. Okay, so things look reasonable. Now I can delete these two walls, and grids and levels are somewhat set here. I am going to navigate now to the south elevation, and I'm going to be creating some additional levels. So I need a level that's going to be at 3 feet. We've got some exterior wall that's going to change at that point. So I'll just use copy, and I will copy this up 3 feet. And I need this level 2 to, instead of being at 10 feet, I need it to be at 9 feet, 1 1/8 inches. And I need one more level that's a little bit further up. So I'm going to copy level 2 up, and then I will set its elevation, and this will be the top of the roof, and it needs to be at 11 feet, 8.5 inches. And I'd like to name these things to something now that makes sense in a project. So I'm going to call this level 1 to be first floor finish. I'm going to click yes there, right? And notice now in the project browser I have first floor finish. I'm going to have this level 3 be split finish. Notice I didn't get a request to rename views. There actually is no floor plan or ceiling associated with this split finish. And I'm not going to need one ever. This is going to be something that I will use to delineate the top of one wall and the bottom of another, but I'm not going to need it as a view. So level 2 wants to be called, say, let's say top of wall, and I'll say first floor. I will rename this view. And this last one wants to be, I'm going to call it TOR, or top of roof. Okay. So at this point, we've got a file set up. We're ready to begin thinking about some geometry now. I'm going to close out this session, and in the next session or group, we will be dealing with walls. Hope this is helpful, and we'll see you soon.